Hello students, welcome to this video lecture on effectuation versus causation. These two approaches, that is effectuation and causation, are being followed by entrepreneurs. Causation is a traditional method, whereas in effectuation, the entrepreneurs go with the flow. Now, already we have seen in one of the lectures what is effectuation and what are the various principles that come under effectuation. So, once again, I have given an introduction here. It is a decision making process used by entrepreneurs, particularly in uncertain or unpredictable environments. It emphasizes taking action based on available resources, that is, bird in hand resources, affordable risk, minimum risk, and flexible goals rather than long term preset plans. This concept was introduced by Dr. Saraswati, a renowned scholar in entrepreneurship. So, what is the difference between causation and effectuation? See, causation is a traditional predictive approach, a normal approach to entrepreneurship that involves setting a clear goal first and then working backward to identify the means and actions required to achieve that goal. It is based on linear process where the entrepreneur knows what they want to achieve and devises a detailed plan to reach that goal. So in traditional process, the entrepreneur will have a goal, will have an ambition, and he will prepare accordingly, okay, to meet the goal. So he will have a plan, he will have a structure, he will organize things, he will mobilize resources. So he will take actions, all those actions that are required to realize his aim or objective. Whereas in effectuation, it is a non-linear adaptive approach where the entrepreneur starts with available resources and capabilities and focuses on what they can control. The process is more flexible, with the entrepreneur being open to opportunities and adjusting goals based on interactions with others and changing circumstances. So here the entrepreneur, he will start with the resources he has or she has in his hand, and he starts his business based on the strength or capabilities he has. Right? So approach to planning, in what way these two methods differ in planning. Causation follows a goal-driven and predictive model of planning. So, entrepreneurs using causation first define a specific goal, what they would like to achieve, often based on market analysis or forecast, and then develop a step by step plan to achieve it, how they are going to achieve their objective. So, it assumes the future is predictable and that successful entrepreneurs can forecast outcomes based on known variables. Effectuation follows a means driven and adaptive model. Entrepreneurs focus on the resources, skills, and networks they currently have at their disposal. They don't start with a fixed goal, but rather adapt their objectives as they move forward and interact with others. The future is seen as uncertain, highly unpredictable, and entrepreneurs are more comfortable with flexibility and learning along the way. Next one is goal setting. In causation, the entrepreneur has got a clear goal. He starts with a specific goal. They are clear about what they want to achieve and define measurable objectives. This approach seems that there is a predictable path to achieving these goals, and it encourages extensive market research and careful planning in advance. In effectuation, on the other hand, the entrepreneur starts with the available means, and the goals evolve over time as new opportunities and challenges arise. Rather than focusing on a predefined outcome, the entrepreneur is more focused on controlling what they can and making decisions based on resources at hand, often relying on partnerships and collaborations. Focus on risk and uncertainty. Causation tends to focus on reducing risk by predicting and controlling future outcomes as much as possible because they have planned already, they have structured already. The entrepreneur tries to minimize uncertainty by making decisions based on thorough analysis and long term planning. The business plan is usually detailed, and risk management strategies are developed to anticipate and avoid obstacles. Effectuation. It is particularly well suited for situations with high uncertainty and improbability. Rather than attempting to eliminate risk, the effectual entrepreneurs embrace it and focus on what they can afford to lose. Okay, minimal risk. The emphasis on experiment and learning by doing, with a willingness to adjust plans and goals as new information or unexpected challenges arise. Next one is decision making. In causation, decision making follows a top down approach based on analysis, forecasting, and rational decision making. Entrepreneurs analyze market trends, perform competitive analysis, and make decisions that are intended to lead to a specific predetermined goal. There is an assumption that the entrepreneur has control over the external environment and can plan for success through proper foresight and strategic moves. In decision making in effectuation is iterative and bottom up. Entrepreneurs make decisions based on the resources and relationships they currently maintain or have, and these decisions often evolve as new information and opportunities emerge. Decisions are often made by testing hypotheses and observing how different actions lead to different outcomes rather than following a predefined roadmap. Next one is resources and means. Causation. Entrepreneurs using causation tend to seek external resources and funding to achieve their goals. They often require a business plan to secure investment or loans and focus on acquiring the necessary capital and expertise to execute their predefined vision. In effectuation, the entrepreneurs start with what they have, that is, their existing resources, knowledge, skills, and networks. Instead of focusing on acquiring large external resources or funding support, they leverage the resources available to them in the moment. As they move forward, they continuously adapt their resources and strategies based on opportunities and collaborations that arise. Risk mitigation. In causation, reducing the risk or risk mitigation involves creating a detailed business plan with a clearly identified risks and corresponding strategies to avoid or minimize them. Entrepreneurs try to predict future challenges and develop a framework to address them in advance. Effectuation minimizes risk through affordable loss. They ask themselves, that is, entrepreneurs ask themselves, what can I afford to lose instead of what do I need to gain? They make decisions based on what they can afford to lose rather than what they expect to gain, making smaller bets to test hypotheses before scaling their efforts. Flexibility and adaptability. Causation. Causation assumes that the entrepreneur can predict and plan for the future, and that flexibility is less necessary once a clear goal and plan are set. The focus is on execution according to a fixed plan. Effectuation. Effectuation thrives on flexibility and adaptability. Entrepreneurs adapt their goals, strategies, and business models in response to changes in the environment, feedback from customers or partners, and unexpected events. The process is much more dynamic, and the entrepreneur remains open to changing their initial vision based on real time learning. Next one is market and customer focus. Causation typically begins with market research because they have already defined a target, defined a goal. To understand customer needs and preferences, they design products or services that they believe will meet these needs and satisfy market demand. The business model is typically structured to respond to these identified needs in a very targeted manner. Effectuation. Effectual entrepreneurs may not start with a detailed understanding of the market. Instead, They focus on building relationships and partnerships with customers and stakeholders, learning through interaction and collaboration. The market and product evolve over time based on customer feedback and changing needs. Next one is control versus prediction. The causation approach assumes that the entrepreneur can predict the future and control the path to achieving success. The entrepreneur's goal is to plan and manage resources to execute the vision as predicted, whereas effectuation places more emphasis on control rather than prediction. Entrepreneurs focus on taking action and influencing the environment based on the resources they have and the relationships they form. They need not wait for a perfect prediction of the future, but instead aim to co create the future through their actions. Next one is business model options. Example, a tech entrepreneur has a clear vision for a new app that will revolutionize the way people shop for groceries online. They create a detailed business plan, conduct market research, and seek our investors to raise the necessary capital. They follow the plan step by step, assuming that the market will behave as predicted and that they can do reach a certain target by a deadline. Effectuation. Example, a social entrepreneur wants to reduce plastic waste in a local community. Instead of starting with a fully detailed plan, they begin by identifying local partners, community groups, recycling centers, and environmental organizations, and they figure out what resources they already have at their disposal. They might start with a small local campaign to raise awareness using the feedback and resources from the community to adapt and expand the project as it grows. Yes, let us discuss risk and reward sharing in the deal aspect approach. In causation, it is very much goal driven and predictive, whereas in effectuation, it is means driven and adaptive. Goal setting, causation has got a very clear predefined goals target that has to be achieved, whereas in effectuation, goals they evolve through interaction. Planning, it has got a detailed plan, step by step plan, and effectuation, the planning is very much flexible and iterative, it keeps changing. Risk management, it minimizes risk through forecasting, whereas in effectuation, it minimizes risk through affordable loss principle. Resources used, causation seeks external resources and funding to operate their vision, whereas in effectuation, leverage existing resources and skills. It starts with what they have. And decision making, it is very much rational in causation, analysis driven decisions, whereas in effectuation, it's iterative and very much based on current resources. What do they have in hand? Market forces focus, it starts with market analysis, whereas in effectuation it starts with available means and they adapt. Adaptability, it is very much flexible, it is not flexible once the plan is set, whereas effectuation, it is very much flexible and adapts to change. Control versus prediction, causation predict future outcomes, whereas effectuation control what is within your ability. So, in summary, causation is suited for environments where uncertainty is very low and there is sufficient data to predict outcomes with confidence, while effectuation is ideal in highly uncertain environments where resources are limited and flexibility is crucial. Social entrepreneurs often find effectuation to be more aligned with their needs as they typically operate in contexts with high uncertainty and evolving social challenges. Causation may be more appropriate for ventures that have clearer market demands or more stable industries. So, both approaches, whether it is causation or effectuation, they offer valuable insights depending on the specific entrepreneurial context. So, example, now let us discuss Example, a traditional tech startup app development. So this is the scenario. A tech entrepreneur, he has identified a gap in the market for a new grocery shopping app that allow users to easily compare prices across different grocery stores in real time. So they have a clear vision of how the app should look and function, and also they believe there is a strong market demand based on market research. So this is the steps in causation approach. They have a clear goal. So their goal is to develop a mobile app that compares grocery prices. So they have to do research for that. So they conduct thorough market research to understand consumer behavior and preferences. Now after that, after the research, they have to devise a plan. So the entrepreneur creates a detailed business plan outlining steps for app development. So, who is their target audience? So, what are the marketing strategies they need to follow, and how much they expect as revenue to run the operation? So, how they are going to generate revenue funding? So, it is based on the plan. They pitch investors to secure funding for the app's development. How they are going to execute this? They build the app according to the business plan, launch it, and track user acquisition and engagement based on predetermined success metrics. So, how they are going to scale it? If the app is successful in the initial market, the entrepreneur plans to expand to other cities or regions. So, what are the key characteristics of causation in this example? So, they have a predefined goal. The entrepreneur starts with a specific outcome in mind. So, a grocery shopping app. So, extensive planning. So, there is a focus on detailed planning based on market analysis. Predictability assumes that with proper planning, the market will behave in a predictable way, the app will succeed. So, this is only an assumption. External funding. So it relies on external funding from investors to reach the goal. So effectuation example. Now let us discuss an example under effectuation. So a social entrepreneur tackling plastic waste scenario. A social entrepreneur, he wants to reduce plastic waste in a local community by setting up a recycling initiative, but they don't have significant funding or a fully developed business plan. Instead, they start by leveraging the local community's support and available resources. So, what are the steps in effectuation approach? Starting with the available resources. So, what are the resources they have? The entrepreneur has a background in environmental science and some local connections with community groups. So, they start by reaching out to local schools and environmental organizations. So, this is the resource he has. Forming partnerships. Instead of going for large scale funding first, they build partnerships with local businesses and schools to raise awareness and collect recyclable plastics. So, what is the affordable loss? The entrepreneur begins with a small investment, possibly just time and minimal resources like setting up a few bins in public areas, knowing that the loss will be manageable if the project doesn't scale right away. Yeah, a flexible goal setting. Rather than starting with a fixed, detailed goal, the entrepreneur tests different approaches. They may initially aim to set up a small community recycling program, but adapt their goal as they learn more about the community's needs and engage with more partners. So, how do they embrace surprise? When local businesses agree to help, the entrepreneur is surprised by the level of support. This leads to the opportunity to expand the initiative to include creating eco-friendly products from recycled materials, which wasn't part of the original plan. So this is how they embrace the surprise, the opportunity. They are converting the surprise to opportunity. Iterative process. The project evolves over time based on feedback from participants. The entrepreneur adapts their approach to reach more people, scale the recycling efforts, and find new ways to engage the community. Key characteristics of effectuation in this example: means driven. The entrepreneur focuses on what they have. knowledge, local networks, and passion for the environment rather than a detailed business plan. Affordable loss. They take manageable risks such as committing their time or a small budget without overcommitting resources. Partnerships and collaboration. The entrepreneur works closely with the community, building partnerships and co creating solutions. Flexible and adaptive. The goals evolve as new opportunities arise, such as turning recycled plastic into products which was not initially planned. Next one is embracing uncertainty. They accept surprises and challenges, using these as opportunities to refine their approach. Key differences illustrated by these examples. Causation involves starting with a clear goal, that is, grocery shopping app, conducting market research, and developing a step by step plan to launch the product or achieve the goal with external funding. So, the entrepreneur is very much focused on predictability, thus reducing uncertainty by planning for unknown variables. In effectuation, in contrast, it involves starting with the available resources. What are the resources? Knowledge and networks. So, forming partnerships and taking small, manageable risks. The entrepreneur is adaptive, adjusting goals based on new opportunities and feedback, and is comfortable with uncertainty and change. So, summary, these two approaches highlight how different types of entrepreneurship, whether aiming for technological innovation or solving social problems, can benefit from distinct ways of thinking and acting. Causation works best in more predictable environments where there is ample market data and a clear path to success, while effectuation is particularly valuable in environments with high uncertainty and limited resources such as social entrepreneurship. Thank you.